So in this problem, we're told to find f. We're told that the f double prime of theta is equal to the sine of theta plus the cosine of theta. Then we're told that f of 0 is equal to 5 and f prime of 0 is equal to 4. So let's just start off by writing what we have. So we have the f double prime of theta is equal to the sine of theta plus the cosine of theta. So in this, they're asking us for f of theta, so we should try and transform this function into f of theta. So if we find the antiderivative of this function, we're going to get f prime of theta. Then if we find the antiderivative of that, we're going to get f of theta. So let's go ahead and do that. So f prime of theta is going to be the antiderivative of this. So the antiderivative of sine is going to be minus cosine of theta. And the antiderivative of the cosine of theta is sine of theta. Then we need to find the antiderivative of this to get f of theta. So the antiderivative of minus cosine of theta is going to be minus sine of theta. And then the antiderivative of the sine of theta is the minus cosine of theta. And then on these, I forgot to add that we have to do plus c for this, because whenever we take the antiderivative of a function, we gotta add c. And then when we take the antiderivative of this, we did the first part, but then we gotta do the antiderivative of c. So the antiderivative of c is just gonna be c times theta. Because if you have a constant, you're just gonna multiply it by the variable, so theta. So it's just gonna be c times theta. But then since we're finding the antiderivative of this, we gotta add d. So it's going to be minus sine of theta minus the cosine of theta plus c times theta plus d. And then we're told, let's try and solve for these variables actually first. So we're told that f prime of 0 is equal to 4. So if we plug in 0 and 4 into this, we can solve for c. So we're going to use this formula. So we know that f prime of 0 is equal to 4. So 4 equals minus cosine of 0. So cosine of 0 is 1. So this is just going to become minus 1 plus the sine of 0, which is just 0, plus c. So c, if we add 1 to both sides, we know that c is going to be equal to 5. So you know that c equals 5. I'm going to write that over here, c equals 5. And then all we need to do is solve for d now. So how do we solve for d? Well, we're told that f of 0 is equal to 5, so we're going to use this equation right here. So f of theta, or f of 0 is 5, which equals to the minus sine of 0, which is 0, minus the cosine of 0. The cosine of 0 is 1, so minus 1 plus c, which is 5, times theta, which is 0, so it's just going to be 0, plus d. And so we can just add 1 to both sides to get d. So we'll get 6 is equal to d. And now we got both. So now all we got to do is just plug in our c and d into this formula right here. So f prime of theta is going to be equal to minus sine of theta minus the cosine of theta plus c times the cosine of theta, so 5 times theta plus d, which is 6. And so this right here is going to be the answer to this question.